that you all probably know, today is the actual day that we celebrate the 46th anniversary of Roe v. Wade.
Today, January 22nd.
That's right. And we also want to point out that a lot was happening in the early 70s. CWI was formed in 1974, and of course Title IX was approved in 1972 and signed by President Nixon. So Title IX is 47 years old, and many of us, or some of us, met Bunny even before Title IX started, and that was my case. I was very fortunate. I met Bunny in 1969, and Bunny was kind enough to pilot test my dissertation research experiment on student influence on teacher behavior. She was a professor at Mount Vernon College. And so we knew we were both feminists, and so she kept me connected to all kinds of things that she was doing in the early days of Title IX, including joining WEAL, Women's Equity Action League. When I worked in the Department of Education for 34 years, I continually kept in touch with Bunny on all kinds of activities, and we shared research interests. Whenever I was able to do so in the Department of Education, I worked on promoting, in the early years we called it sex equity in education. In later years it was changed to gender equity. And Bunny worked for 20 years in the project on the Association of American Colleges, as it was in its early years, and later it's now, they added universities. And Karen Musil will fill us in on a lot of those details. And I consulted Bunny often as I did our research. Some of our major research was on sex equity in classroom interactions, and Bunny, in parallel activities, focused on developing issues related to the chilly climate. Her focus was primarily on the post-secondary level, whereas our focus on our research was more at the K through 12 level. Bunny was also a very generous advisor on all kinds of other activities. For example, she was an advisor on our handbook for achieving sex equity through education that came out in 1985, and she was also an advisor on our later second edition of the handbook, which we called the Handbook for Achieving Gender Equity through Education in 2007. Janice was also very active in that activity and major book. Bunny, I'd like to mention, was very instrumental in developing the Title IX regulations. I was hoping that Ellie Smeal would be here because she also worked with Bunny on the Title IX regulations, as did many other people. And one of the provisions in the Title IX regulations that Bunny added was the provision that there should be Title IX coordinators to help people really implement Title IX, supposedly in all of the schools that were covered by Title IX that received federal financial assistance. And we've helped her in later years, and as you saw on page 2 of the handout and this meeting, we have dedicated our Feminist Majority Foundation report on Title IX coordinators to Bunny, and have a picture of her on the front cover. The last time I saw Bunny was the group that Margaret Dunkel, who had worked with Bunny for many years, organized to see the play actually at Arena Stage. And that play was about sexual harassment. So one of the other things that Bunny added to the Title IX regulations were that all schools should develop their own grievance procedures. Right now, the Department of Education, instead of sort of properly encouraging people to have those grievance procedures and to develop procedures that would be helping to prevent sexual harassment, they have developed some very detailed and often wrong-headed grievance procedures related to sexual harassment. There's a comment period that's now open till the end of the month, the 30th, for people to write in and say what they think is wrong with those grievance procedures. But I'd like to point out that one of the things that's wrong is that they're so detailed that if they come down as actual requirements in the Title IX regulations, they might have a spillover effect and cause schools that are trying to be compliant with the actual federal regulations to use many of their bad grievance procedures for all kinds of Title IX infractions, from athletics to many other issues that Title IX covers, employment and things like that. So it's really important that we encourage people to object to the notice of proposed rulemaking that the Department of Ed is doing, since they will have a very negative effect on the Title IX regulations. I think I probably talked for over 5 minutes. There's always lots to say about our wonderful Bunny. One of the other things that I was doing, I was looking through a big file that I had of papers and newsletters from Bunny, and one of the things that I found and read last night was a wonderful paper that she did on the impact of ERA on education. And she did this paper in 1983. It would be really interesting to look at it and see how many of the things are still applicable today, since hopefully we're getting quite close to having our 38th state, Virginia, ratify ERA. So we hope that that will come in especially handy, and people might want to look at that. So I'm looking forward to learning even more about Bunny from all of you. Everybody here probably has had special relations with Bunny.